What is up, all my lovely people in Blue Cranium land? So, for today's video, guys, as you can see, I'm going to be drawing y'all a skull version of SandClock. So, this particular image I kind of found it on Pinterest, and I kind of use it as a hack to kind of keep my art or illustration within the proximity of the tablet so it doesn't get too big or too small. And I mean, like, from now and then, or every now and then, I guess, if you ever decide you want to draw something, you can use a image as a guide, but I should emphasize, don't copy. This is just, as I said, just using it as a guide to stay within the limits of the actual digital page. So the first time I actually seen a SandClock was when I got it as a gift from my uncle. I think it was in a game. I'm trying to remember if the game was called Pictionary, but pretty much what you had to do is, I don't know if it was really Pictionary, but maybe it was some type of word game, and you had to pretty much turn the clock over and start making up or coming up with words with the alphabets you did have. And I think for the entire game, I was more amused by the whole concept of the sand clock and just looking at that sand just fall from the top chamber until the bottom. And then my sister was like, "Are you gonna play the game, or are you just gonna watch the sand clock?" So I figured, this would be a nice little cool illustration to do for you guys. I mean, when you think about watches and how they've evolved, and the amount of technology and the amount of things that you can do with watches nowadays. I mean, you have the iPhone watches, which are the smart watches. But oddly enough, what I think is really odd for a smartwatch, how you have your regular watch that has like a battery at the back, and when you first start using it, obviously it's usually good for about, I would want to say, 2 to 3 years, give or take. But with these smartwatches, you're gonna put them to charge, which kind of defeats the whole purpose of being smart, I think. And I think it would be cool if it had the option to charge via the sun, kind of like how some watches have the ability to charge their batteries via the sun. They kind of have like this little small little solar panel kind of thing on the main face of the watch. So I think that's kind of cool. But just watches in general, I think, are pretty cool. And then you have Mr. Kevin O'Leary as one of the Shark Tank sharks, who's also a not a shark enthusiast, but a watch enthusiast. And I remember in one of his can't remember if it was a reel or something on YouTube, he was just showing like his different collection of watches, which I thought was pretty cool at the time. I remember when I was 13 or 14 years old, way back, a really long time ago, my dad and myself and the entire family, we would go to this shop that, and this guy used to deal in watches and colognes. And my dad would pretty much pick out a watch every now and then because he also used to kind of collect watches. And I just happened to look at the display where he had, all the new watches and everything. And if you can guess it, yep, I did find a skull watch. And I was like, just naturally, my eyes just kind of went directly to it because it was this nice, cool, bronze looking silver, kind of like a brushed aluminum kind of a watch. And it had this cool skull embossed. It was not actually embossed, it was kind of more, and I don't know what is the exact term, where the image that you see is kind of has like that 3D look. And I thought that was the most coolest watch at the time. And my dad was like, "Do you want it?" And I'm like, "Of course I want it." And what was cool about the watch is when I opened it up, the actual hands, the minute hand, I guess, and the the small hand and the big hand were actually made of bones, which I thought was pretty cool. And then the little gears that are inside the watch were made of these what's it called, kind of like this I don't know what is the exact material called, but it's something that, you know, when you put light on it, it kind of glows in the dark and turns green. I think it's called iridium or something. But I thought that was really cool, and I think that was the selling factor for me, like, you know, because when the shop owner seen me all thrilled about it, he's like, oh, you know, check this out, you know. And I was like, man, I gotta have this watch, you know. And ever since I got the watch, I was just excited to get a watch that was all skull related. And, you know, this whole love for drawing skulls and skeletons has been something that has been with me for a very long time, you know. Like, you know, over the years I used to draw, like, you know, cars and buses and trucks and all that, because I used to like heavy machinery. And but yeah, you know, just thought I'd tell you all this story about my fun little skull watch. So here now I have the line art complete and inked, and I figured I'd turn down the opacity, not the opacity, I'm sorry, the background, to make it like a gray, so to have like a better contrast when I drop the colors. And when I figured the colors, I thought I'd want to keep it something that has like that nice tropical kind of, like, you know, that sandy look. So I gave it like that nice sand look for the actual base. And then thought I'd do the bones also in the same way. And then I figured, you know, play around with the colors. I mean, for this part, I just kind of, like, you know, just zen out and just pick the colors as I want, like, you know. So thought of going with the blue, obviously, for the kind of like little rivets or whatever those things are that hold the watch together. And then that is a light blue, but for some reason it kind of looks gray from looking at it right now. And figured I'd do some moons for the eyes, so the eyes don't look like just all black and dark. And then for the actual skull, I figured I'd do something like a nice light blue. Almost, I was thinking of, like, you know, like when you look at a sky, or at the sky when it's just past sunset, you know, you have the different colors of the sky that kind of go from that, like a nice lightish blue, and it kind of fade off into like a nice orange. So that's kind of like the theme I was thinking of. But since I'd already done orange for the coffee mug, I figured I'd try something just with the blues and the beige for this one. For the shading over here, pretty much what I've done is, and probably talked about it in my earlier videos or the ones on my other channel, is I pretty much make a clipping mask for the flat colors that are below what you see right now. And then I choose the line art color, which is like a darkish blue. And then I just adjust the opacity to about 30% to give it the initial shading, which I'm doing right now. And if you want to have like that nice gradient solid color look, you just make another layer on top of that and then do the exact same thing. And then in the second phase, you just change the opacity. I mean, I switched to 40% for the second layer, and you can pretty much play around with that. I mean, you can do it at 40, 50, 60. But if you do it anything, well, actually 60 is too dark. But 40 to 50, I think, is kind of like the cool sweet point. So here is the final image, guys. As you can tell, I've done some more texture to the skull and to the outside bones and everything. But all in all, I think it was a fun illustration, and I had a whole lot of fun creating it for you guys. And hopefully I'll follow it along, maybe draw along. And I guess we will wrap this up, guys. And I will see you all in the next video. Till the next time, keep creating, keep drawing. I'll see you all down the road or on the other side. Take care. Bye for now.